We have poured billions into police reform. We've rewritten laws, convened task forces, set up commissions, launched community policing, modernized equipment, raised salaries, upgraded training, built new command structures. And still, more than 20 years into this national effort, the result is the same: brutality, impunity, and unaccountable power wrapped in uniform. 10 days ago, teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang died in police custody. The initial claim? That he fatally injured himself by repeatedly banging his head against a wall. An explanation so absurd that it was swiftly walked back. The Inspector General of Police later apologized for that statement, but not for the death, not for the glaring contradictions, and certainly not for the failure of the institution he leads. Just days after that, an innocent bystander was shot in the head during public protests. Yet another was shot in the neck. And we remember all too well what happened during last year's Gen Z-led demonstrations. Young people abducted in the dead of night, disappeared without charge, some brutalized, others silenced, ironically being released from police custody when they had denied all along their involvement. Their only crime? Daring to dissent. What does this say about the state of reform? Because reform, after all, is not about paper. It is about people. It is not about the length of the report or the cost of the project. It's about what happens in that critical moment when a citizen encounters a police officer in a street, at a rally, or in a cell. And if that moment still ends in fear or death, then the reform has failed. We have a long and exhausting history of trying in this country. You see, in 2004, the Kibaki administration launched the first major effort with the National Task Force on Police Reform. Its report, released a year later in 2005, proposed a 5-year overhaul at a cost of 61 billion shillings. Most of it was never implemented. In 2009, following the post-election violence, the Ransley Task Force was appointed. It recommended a complete reorganization of the police command structure, the establishment of clear oversight bodies, and a pivot to community-based policing. The 2010 Constitution then enshrined many of these ideas in law, establishing the Independent Policing Oversight Authority and the National Police Service Commission. There was hope, but the institutions were underfunded and politically undermined almost from the start. Subsequent efforts were funded by both the government and international partners. The Police Reform Implementation Committee, for example, had a 61.7 billion shillings plan. But with a 16 billion shillings funding shortfall, more blueprints, more gaps. Then came the latest, the task force led by former Chief Justice David Maraga, appointed in late 2022. It issued 598 recommendations, of which more than half were deemed actionable without legislation. The price tag? Over 106 billion shillings. Now, some 51% of the recommendations, we are told, have been implemented. But if we're still losing lives in custody and on the streets, what exactly are we measuring? The recommendations across all these efforts are eerily similar. Better pay and welfare, better training, better housing, more accountability, stronger oversight, a focus on service rather than force. We have said the same things over and over for years. And even the political language has been recycled. In his 2022 campaign and shortly after taking office, President William Ruto promised a new era, one where the police and the DCI would no longer be used to settle political scores. He said Kenyans should be free to talk to each other without fear, even mocking the fact that people had resorted to WhatsApp calls to avoid surveillance. he vowed to restore our democratic space. And yet, here we are. The question is, do we mean it this time? Will we act, or will we spend yet another decade making the same recommendations, allocating the same billions, and watching more lives stolen without justice? Because if the only consistent outcome of all these reforms is more reports, more funding, and more funerals, then what we're running is not a reform program. It's a performance. And performances don't save lives. That's my take.